Eleventh grader Brian straps on a camera so he can stream his daily activities. As a project for an environmental studies program, college freshman Josh turns on his webcam and takes his laptop everywhere. New homeowner Robyn also sets up an open feed from the kitchen of her just-purchased home. All three people want to reduce their carbon footprints. They want to minimize the carbon dioxide their daily activities generate. All three stream their video to an environmental think tank. Experts will examine their everyday activities and suggest more ways they can help the environment. Here is some of their footage, starting with Brian. He wakes up, washes his face, and brushes his teeth. He gets dressed, eats breakfast, and takes his dog Burley for his morning outing. He claims the money he's paid for mowing the family's yard, writes his parents a note, and heads for the school bus. Switching to Josh's streaming live video, he helps himself to an OJ from his refrigerator in his dorm. He changes his printer cartridge and prints out a paper on endangered species and checks in with a friend. Then he takes his MP3 from its charger, picks up his books, and heads for his bike. In another town, Robyn's webcam shows her helping herself to some cereal for breakfast. She prepares some food for lunch in a microwave and packs her lunch along with the bottled water. She puts the dishes in the dishwasher. She wipes off the kitchen counters, freshens up the cat's litter box, and takes out a week's garbage. Then she heads off to work. Here are the think tank's observations and suggestions on how Brian, Josh, and Robyn can conserve natural resources. The gas that runs today's cars creates exhaust containing carbon dioxide and many other pollutant gases. A car in idle emits 20 times more pollution than a car moving at 32 miles an hour. Josh avoids using drive-through service for his fast food. Robyn drives a hybrid car that reduces gas usage. The hybrid engine reduces the greenhouse gas emissions of gasoline-powered cars. Her hybrid car has both a battery that provides electricity and a conventional internal combustion engine. Sometimes it runs on the conventional engine, other times it uses the battery. Josh rides his bike, walks, or takes a bus to reduce his gasoline consumption. To earn his allowance, Brian uses a gasoline-powered mower to mow his family's lawn. Running that mower for an hour pollutes as much as driving 11 late-model cars for the same amount of time. Weed eaters and leaf blowers pollute even more than the power mower. Switching to an old-fashioned push mower and hand tools would turn Brian's yard work into a good workout and reduce the amount of pollution he puts into the atmosphere. Even food choices can conserve gas. Food travels an average distance of 1,500 miles as it moves from farm to plate. Robyn shops at a local farmer's market during the summer. She buys locally produced meats, fruits, and vegetables whenever she can. That cuts down on fuel used to transport her food from faraway regions or even countries. However, Robyn drinks bottled water. If she switches to tap water, she'll save on the energy expended manufacturing and transporting the plastic bottles. She'll save money too. Manufacturing and disposing of the plastic water bottles consumed in the United States burned up about 1.5 billion barrels of oil in 2008. That's enough to power 100,000 cars for a year. Most of these bottles end up in landfills, not recycling centers. Bottled water is not necessarily cleaner or safer than tap water in the United States. People can use home filters if they want to improve the taste of local water. Generating electricity often releases polluting gases into the atmosphere, so consumers help the planet when they conserve electricity. Back at Josh's dorm, he uses a landline because it doesn't require an electrical charger like mobile phones do. He left his computer and printer running when he went to class. Even the low power option uses electricity, so turning them off will save power. A TV uses between 10 and 15% of its energy when it is powered off. People can use electricity generated from renewable sources. Renewable means something can be replaced or regrown. The sun and wind are renewable sources of energy because they never run out. Solar cells can collect sunlight and convert it into electricity. Josh could switch to a solar-powered charger for his iPod. Solar water heaters are more expensive than traditional water heaters, but they can pay for themselves over time through lower utility bills. As a college freshman, Josh now does his own laundry. He washes his clothes in hot water. Switching to cold or warm water will save energy used to heat the water. Setting a dryer on the moisture sensor rather than the timer cuts energy use by 15%. Robyn cooks in a microwave. Zapping a meal for a few minutes is more energy efficient than heating an entire conventional oven. On a summer day, Brian closes the blinds to keep out unwanted hot sun. Since the room won't heat up so much while he's gone, he can reduce the amount of time he runs the air conditioner. Here's another view of Josh's dorm room. Try to spot how Josh can reduce his electrical use without inconveniencing himself greatly. Josh left his lamp turned on even though he's not home. That boombox is plugged in, so it also uses electricity when he isn't around. Of course, Josh has a cell in addition to his landline. He left the charger plugged in even though he has a cell with him. By putting several cords on one power strip, Josh can conveniently turn off several electronics when they're not in use. Robyn hangs her laundry on a drying rack. To save electricity, she seldom dries laundry in the dryer. Robyn keeps her air conditioner at 78 degrees while she's home and turns it higher while she is away at work. During the winter, she has her thermostat at 68 degrees. Air conditioners and furnaces account for about half of a typical household's energy costs. Robyn's thoughtful thermostat settings help her save on her energy bills. She could replace her old thermostat with a programmable model to reduce her energy use even more. It automatically adjusts the temperature. Americans use a lot of water. From washing cars to eating vegetables that require water to grow, Americans consume 1,600 gallons of water each day. Everything from droughts to living in desert country causes water shortages. Brian let the water run while he brushes his teeth. A simple action like turning the water off while brushing can save a gallon a minute. If Brian limits his showers to 5 minutes, he will save an average of 1,000 gallons of water every month, as well as the power necessary for the water heater to heat that 1,000 gallons. A dripping faucet can waste as much as 20 gallons a day. Instead of rinsing fruits and vegetables with running water, Robyn could clean them in a bowl of water. She could use a trickle rather than a torrent for kitchen chores that require an open spigot. She saves water when she scrapes her dishes, not rinsing them before loading them into her dishwasher. She only runs the dishwasher when it is full. Robyn installed a low-flow shower head and toilet that cut down her water usage by at least 20%. Brian washes the family car on the lawn, so the runoff goes back into the groundwater supply. Using commercial car washes conserves water since they reuse rinse water. Many environmental advertising claims sound impressive, but are meaningless. They are vague, inaccurate, and impossible to substantiate. Just because a product uses words such as eco, green, earth, or planet does not mean it necessarily has legitimate environmental benefits. Some advertisements make claims without giving information about why the product actually is good or better for the environment. The phrases do not give the information needed to compare products, packaging, or services. Here are some meaningful labels. The ENERGY STAR label appears on energy-efficient appliances and electronics. Products with the ENERGY STAR certification run on half as much energy as standard equipment. ENERGY STAR products usually cost more upfront. Sometimes users recoup the initial expense because ENERGY STAR products don't eat up so much power. Josh's refrigerator in his dorm has an ENERGY STAR label. So does his printer. Desktop and laptop computers, TVs, cable, and satellite receivers must also meet ENERGY STAR standards. Gamers can use ENERGY STAR game consoles. The ENERGY STAR label also appears on clothes washers, dishwashers, and room air conditioners. Here's a top-loading wash machine. It consumes energy and water because the entire drum fills with water. Here's a front-loading washer which has the ENERGY STAR label. It saves energy over the top-loading machine because it cycles clothes through water at the bottom. Front-loading machines also save energy because they remove more water during the spin cycle. Laundry needs less time in the dryer. Energy-saving dishwashers don't use hot air to dry the dishes. Here's a quiz. Which uses the most energy? A wash machine, dryer, dishwasher, or refrigerator? The refrigerator uses the most energy because it runs continuously. The other appliances don't. Air conditioning units also hog energy. Brian's clock radio uses power even when it isn't playing at any station. The curly glass of a compact fluorescent bulb lights Josh's lamp. Compact fluorescent lights, or CFLs, cost more to buy, but they can last up to 10 times longer. CFLs use 1/4 the power of incandescent bulbs for an equal amount of light. CFLs produce about 75% less heat. Standard incandescent bulbs are inefficient because they give off more energy as heat than light. CFLs require disposal at a hazardous waste center because they contain a small amount of mercury, a toxic metal. Many laundry detergents and household cleaners contain chemicals which pollute water and harm aquatic life. Others contain petroleum, a non-renewable resource. Design for the Environment, or DFE, labels household products which the Environmental Protection Agency recommends. DFE recommended products may cost more than conventional cleaners and don't always clean as well as cleaners with damaging chemicals. The FSC label stands for the Forest Stewardship Council. Wood products with the FSC label come from well-managed forests. There are currently more than 67 million acres of FSC-certified forest land in North America and more than 225 million acres globally. Products made from trees are renewable if trees are replanted. Here's the amount of garbage the average person creates in a year. 90 soda cans, 70 food cans, 110 bottles and jars, the paper from 2 trees, 100 pounds of plastic. Robyn manages to fill only a small garbage bag during 1 week. How does she do it? She buys products like cereal in bulk. Robyn has an outdoor space where she set up a compost pile, which she uses for gardening. She puts kitchen waste like coffee grounds and banana peels in the compost pile instead of adding them to her garbage or running the electric disposal. So when Robyn composts, she also saves the water and electricity necessary to run a disposal. In a few weeks, these wastes turn into a rich compost that can improve soil. Compost improved soil also holds water better, so watering isn't necessary. Robyn's webcam shows her using clean dish rags to wipe her countertops. That way, she has no used paper toweling to add to her week's trash. Dogs and cats can live green lives. Brian picked up Burley's waste, but the plastic bag he used will end up in a landfill indefinitely. A biodegradable bag will break down in a landfill. Like most people, Robyn uses clay litter for her cat's waste. However, clay doesn't dissolve, so it is not biodegradable after it arrives at a landfill. If Robyn switches to a waste-free organic litter, She can dump it in her yard in a spot far from her compost pile. Robyn never puts paints, oil, or chemicals down the drain. Runoff from toxic chemicals in landfills can poison water. Toxic metals and batteries can contaminate groundwater, so Josh takes his used batteries to a recycling center. Brian checks the Green Electronics website for links to recycling programs when he wants to dispose of some electronic equipment. Recycling used things and buying new recycled products reduces trash in landfills. Recycling means using a raw material again. For example, a town collects aluminum cans from Josh's school. The resulting bales of crushed aluminum cans make new cans. Recycling aluminum cans saves 90% of the energy needed to make a new one. Josh prints his assignment on recycled paper, even when it is more expensive than traditional paper. He uses both sides of the paper for early drafts. 1 ton of recycled paper uses only 60% of the energy used to make new paper. He uses recycled toner cartridges. He takes the used ones back to a store that collects the empties and buys remanufactured replacements. He checks drafts and fixes mistakes before printing, so he prints only what he needs. Josh buys recycled products whenever he can. Recycling industries can only exist if people buy their products. When Josh and his friends order takeout food, they tell the restaurants not to include extra napkins and utensils. They favor restaurants that use containers made from corn or other agricultural crops, instead of traditional petroleum-based plastic takeout containers. Recycling plastic may actually use more energy than simply throwing the plastic away. Brian uses disposable cups in the bathroom and writes with a disposable pen. He could avoid one-time use products. Americans discard 1.6 billion pens every year. If placed end to end, they would stretch more than 150,000 miles. That's like flying from San Francisco to Cape Town, South Africa 10 times. Josh tries to reuse things like plastic bags. Reusing plastic bags gives them a second life. Robyn washes and reuses plastic and foil food containers she uses for her lunches. She has a reusable lunchbox and includes a cloth napkin. She carries durable, reusable bags when she shops for groceries. Robyn's jeans are fashionable, yet purchased at a thrift store. Buying used clothing helps the environment because clothing production releases greenhouse gases. Choosing used over new saves the consumer money. Internet websites advertise gently used or refurbished products at much lower prices than new. Brian donates his used clothing to charities rather than throwing them into the trash. Brian carries a slim reusable bottle in his backpack when he goes to school. He uses it instead of a new cup at the school cafeteria and receives a 10% discount. Thanks to the think tank, Brian, Josh, and Robyn know more earth-friendly solutions they can easily implement. Reduce use of energy like gasoline, oil, and electricity. Don't run faucets unnecessarily. Conserve water. Avoid one-time use items. Recycle and reuse. Buy Energy Star appliances and electronics. Use environmentally friendly products. Reduce garbage and waste. Buy recycled products and reuse personal things. They're doing their part to preserve the planet for future generations. They are part of the solution to the planet's needs.